Hello, Dark Readers. This is Carrie with Dark Side of the Library podcast. I'm here with my spooky co host, Katie.
Hello.
We are bringing you our picks for dark books coming out in December 2022, adult fiction titles. There are actually not very many good, interesting dark books coming out this month. I think most of them, the publishers were rushing to get them on the shelves before October, November. But we've been looking ahead, and there's a ton of books that are dark and eerie coming out January and February 2023. So be sure to click like, follow, subscribe on all the platforms of your choice. We're on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and here on our podcast. And we will bring you all these amazing dark reads in the weeks and months ahead. Katie, you have the first book we want to chat about today, and it's one that we missed back in November and forgot to tell you about. What is it?
Yeah, I think we actually have two books that we missed in November. Oopsies. But this one is called The Sorcerer of Pyongyang. It is by Marcel Theroux, and it came out November 29th.
That's just a few days ago.
Yeah, right? So he was the author of the, quote, sublime Far North book, and he was a finalist for the National Book Award. We have a story about a North Korean boy, so already it's going to be interesting, whose life is irrevocably changed when he stumbles across a mysterious Western book. Can you guess what it is? It's Dungeons and Dragons. I'm really excited. Okay, so here's what it says. 10-year-old Jun-soo is a bright and obedient boy whose only desire is to be a credit to his family, his nation, and most importantly, his dear leader. Yes. However, when he discovers a copy of the Dungeon Master's Guide left behind in a hotel room by a rare foreign visitor, a new and colorful world opens up to him.
Oh my God, Katie, when we travel internationally, we should drop off, like we're Mormons dropping off the Bible, we should drop off D&D books in all of our hotel rooms.
I actually love that idea.
It would be a gift to humanity.
It would. I think that's a great idea. Oh, God. With the help of an English-speaking teacher, Jun-soo deciphers the rules of the famous role-playing game, and his imaginary adventures sweep him away from the harsh reality of a famine-stricken North Korea. Okay, well, I feel like the English-speaking teacher would definitely say something to an authority figure like, hey, this kid found this really spooky book. Oh my God. So over time, the game leads Jun-soo on a spellbinding and unexpected journey through the hidden layers of his country toward precocious success, glory, love, betrayal, prison, a spell at the pinnacle of the North Korean elite, and an extraordinary kind of redemption. This sounds really interesting. Apparently, The Sorcerer of Pyongyang is a love story and a tale of survival against the odds, inspired by the testimony of North Korean refugees and drawing on the author's personal experience of North Korea. It explores the power of empathy and imagination in a society where they are dangerous liabilities. I'm intrigued. I don't ordinarily read books like this, but I kind of like it. I love this. So it's The Sorcerer of Pyongyang. This is by Marcel Theroux. What is next for you?
It's hard to follow that up.
That's kind of deep.
Wow. So my next book came out back on November 22, and I don't know how we missed it because it's about a killer, serial killers.
Well.
And Katie loves serial killer books. So it's All the Blood We Share, a novel of the bloody benders of Kansas. It's by Camilla Bruce, and she is quite a prolific author of dark, spooky reads. She was born in Norway. Wow. She has a master's degree in comparative literature, and her past books include You Let Me In, The Witch in the Well, In the Garden of Spite, and The Pepper Man. Wow. I got to check that out just from the title. All the Blood We Share is based on the real Bloody Benders, a family of serial killers in the Old West. The cover has a woman in a striking red gown standing over a pentacle drawn in ashes. It's quite foreboding.
Wow.
So the winds shift nervously on the Kansas plain, whispering of travelers lost and buried, whispering of witches. Something dark and twisted has taken root at the Bender Inn. At first, the townspeople of Cherryville welcome the rising medium Kate Bender and her family. Kate's messages from the beyond give their tedious dreams hope. Oh, I love that. And her mother's potions cure their little ills for a
Oh.
price. No one knows about their other business, the shortcut to a better life. And why shouldn't their family prosper? They're careful. It's only from those who are marked, those who travel alone and can easily disappear, that the Benders demand their pound of flesh.
Oh
But even
boy.
a gifted seer like Kate can make a misstep. Now, as the secrets festering beneath the soil of the family orchard threaten to bring them all to ruin, the Benders must sharpen their craft or vanish themselves. It kind of sounds like we're supposed to be rooting for the killers.
Right? I'm okay
And
with
the publisher is Berkeley, and they usually publish pretty good literature, so I'm kind of surprised they did one this dark. That's
Yeah.
All the Blood We Share, a novel of the Bloody Benders of Kansas by Camilla Bruce.
My
Phew.
next book, finally in December, is American Afterlife. It is by Pedro Hoffmeister and it comes out December 6th. And it's a book about the Pacific Northwest. Hooray!
Ooh, yeah.
So, the Pacific Northwest lies in ruin in the aftermath of the 9.2 Cascadia earthquake. Oh, great. There is a tsunami at the coast, annihilated infrastructure in all the towns and cities, and failed dams in the Oregon River Valley where 15-year-old Cello lives with her mother, a fearful evangelical who's become caught up in a fearsome cult called the quote, Collection of Redeemed Souls. Cello and her mother, Mexican citizens without US papers, have always had status teeter on the edge. I don't think her name is Cello. It's Celio. I think I'm not sure how to pronounce that actually. And now it's about to plunge into the abyss. When the earthquake hits, Celio's mother hasn't been home in days, but she suspects that she's holed up with the cult and might even be dead. When the National
Oh,
Guard arrives to evacuate survivors, she stays behind in the flooded city to find her body, her mother's body. Members of the collection of redeemed souls have also chosen to stay, and their disciples are capturing anyone still left behind and converting them to the cult by force. And
oh, I hate
I
when that
know, I
happens.
hate being captured and going and being in a cult. Entering a deadly game of cat and mouse, Celia tries to evade the cult at every turn, and she desperately searches for her mother's remains. With gunfights and mass killings engulfing the city, she is one step away from her own demise, but the bonds of blood drive her on towards a confrontation with pure evil and a final chance for her mother's redemption. This sounds interesting. It is called American Afterlife by Pedro Hoffmeister.
My next book is Andy Biersack Presents the Works of Edgar Allan Poe.
Mm.
It comes out December 27. Andy Biersack is the Black Veil Bride's founder and frontman, and he's curated his favorite Edgar Allan Poe tales, presented here in their original language with supplemental materials like artwork that he drew himself. And he wrote the foreword. It's a compact book with tales including The Telltale Heart, The Raven, The Oval Portrait, and The Mask of the Red Death. The publisher is Rare Bird Books, and they didn't give us any previews of the artwork inside, so I don't know what to tell you. Just wanted to let you know this is coming out, and for those of you that collect Edgar Allan Poe books with artwork in them, this is for you. Andy Biersack Presents the Works of Edgar Allan Poe.
So I have two books to talk about. Sorry, I'm hogging it. The first one is called Blackstone Fell. This is by Martin Edwards. This is book 3 of 4 from the Rachel Savernake Golden Age Mysteries. So this is actually like a gothic mystery book. So let me just read to you what the first book is about because I don't want to spoil anything for the third book. The first book is Gallows Court, and this came out in 2018. So it's a twisty thriller that's set in 1930s London, which is already really cool. It's sooty, sulfurous, and malign, and no woman should be out on a night like this. A spate of violent deaths and the details too foul to print has horrified the capital, and the smog bound streets are deserted. But Rachel is no ordinary woman. To Scotland's Yard's embarrassment, she solved the chorus girl murder, and now she's on the trail for another killer, Jacob Flint. Manning the Clarion's crime desk is looking for the scoop that will make his name. He's certain there is more to the Miss Savernake's amateur sleuthing than meets the eye. Flint's pursuit of his story will mire him even deeper into the labyrinth of deception and corruption. So this is definitely more of a mystery thriller book, but I like the gothic undertones here. You can see the whole Rachel Saversnake, or not the whole series. There's going to be 4 books out, but you can find the 3rd book as well. It just came out December 1st. My next book that I'm going to talk about is A Fire Endless. This is book 2 of Elements of Cadence. This is by Rebecca Ross, and this one comes out December 6th. I'm really excited. I've had a slew of really not the best novels I've been reading, so I'm excited for the second book of the Elements of Cadence. I have a mini-sode out if you guys are curious about the first book. It is fantastic. It's a great dark fantasy novel steeped in Celtic mythology, more so like Scottish lore. It's really, really cool how they've interwoven the two things together. And you have a bard, a magical bard, etc. East and west, you have spirits, you have people against each other, 2 different lands who made 2 different pacts. It's very cool. So this second book is called A Fire Endless. This is by Rebecca Ross. Check out the whole Elements of Cadence series. It is definitely great if you like dark fantasy. All right, Carrie, what is next for you?
I get to talk.
Yay!
No, I'm just kidding. The next book is The House on the Brink by John Gordon. Comes out December 6th. So Dick Dodds is 16 years old, and he's returning home through a bog, as you do, late at night, and he passes a trail that for some reason sends a chill up his spine. He feels the same inexplicable terror the next day when he explores the trail further. Well, that's very brave of him. I would have been like, nope.
Me too.
He meets a girl, Helen Johnson, who saw something that looked like a man with no arms or legs moving and gliding across the landscape. This intro to the book by the publisher is so poorly written that I feel like it's a self-published book, but it is Valancourt Books. They might be a little bit of a vanity press. So let's continue. Sorry. The mystery deepens when a local widow, Mrs. Knowles, becomes convinced that something evil has emerged from the river near her house. What is the secret of the strange and terrifying mystery of the bog, and what does it have to do with a local legend of a man who died there in the reign of King John while guarding a fabulous treasure?
What?
Dick and Helen are determined to find out, but they might soon find themselves in greater danger than they ever imagined. Oh, okay. This was originally published for teenage readers. The House on the Brink was from 1970.
What?
That's why the kid is named Dick. No one's called Dick or Helen anymore.
I was literally thinking that, like, wow, I haven't heard of that in a long time.
Yeah. So it's earned a reputation over the years as a classic of ghostly fiction. Oh, all right. So it's been long out of print and scarce on the secondhand market. So now it's back out. It's The House on the Brink by John Gordon.
My next book is called The Light Pirate. So this comes out December 6th. This is by Lily Brooks-Dalton. Kind of surprised. I wonder if this is actually about a pirate, because I would imagine this would be a great summer read. So hold on. Let's see what this is about. Florida is slipping away as devastating weather patterns and rising sea levels wreak gradual havoc on the state's infrastructure. I'm having some great weather books or natural disaster books.
Yes.
A powerful hurricane approaches a small town on the southeastern coast. Kirby Lau, an electrical line worker, his pregnant wife Frida, and her 2 sons Flip and Lucas prepare for the worst. When the boys go missing just before the hurricane hits, Kirby heads out into the high winds in search of his children. Left alone, Frida goes into premature labor and gives birth to an unusual child, Wanda, who she names after the catastrophic storm that ushers her into a society closer to collapse than ever before. I'm sorry. I'm just wondering if this is like a thank you, weather, for this terrible disaster. Here's my child Wanda, who I've named after you. Anyway, as Florida continues to unravel, Wanda grows, moving from childhood to adulthood, adapting not only to the changing landscape, but also to the people who stayed behind in a place abandoned by civilization. Wanda loses family, gains community, and ultimately seeks adventure, love, and purpose in a place remade by nature. So apparently, this book is told in 4 parts. It's power, water, light, and time. This book mirrors the rhythms of the elements and the sometimes quick, sometimes slow dissolution of the world as we know it. It is a meditation on the changes we would rather not see, the future we would rather not greet, and a callback to the beauty and violence of an untamable wilderness. Interesting. So, this is called The Light Pirate. This is by Lily Brooks-Dalton.
My next book is The Lost Witch by Paige Crutcher. The publisher is St. Martin's Griffin. Wow, that's a big one. So it's set in 1922. There's a town called Evermore off the coast of Ireland. And I just had a fantasy about traveling to Ireland. I'd love to someday. Let's go.
I think that would be great.
It's under the protection of a goddess. And she has bestowed power upon village healer Brigid Heron, or Breed Heron, or Bridget. Oh my God, I'm just going to say Bridget.
All of them.
To ensure the heart of magic within, the Lake of Dreams. I'm not going to try and pronounce the Celtic name.
Oh.
She's trying to ensure that the heart of magic within the Lake of Dreams remains untouched. For the witches of night, spelled with a K, want to absorb its powerful energies and release the damned from the other world. Well, why shouldn't they be entitled to try? I'm sorry. Bridget has devoted her whole life to being Evermore's guardian, immersing herself in witchcraft and sacrificing her own dreams, as we do. Until Luke Knightley, a trickster god with his own claim on the lake, offers Bridget her heart's desire in exchange for betraying her goddess's trust. No, don't do it. So 2022, a century later, in the present day, Evermore is under siege. The witches of night wield chaos magic, opening the rift between the island and the other world wider every day. Ooh. Beings born from folklore nightmares prey upon the villagers, consuming their very humanity. Ophelia Gallagher is Bridget's descendant, and her fellow witch Finola McIntyre do their best to keep the monsters and mayhem at bay. Bridget awakens in this world with no memory of how she traveled into the future and why Evermore has been cursed. To seal the lake and stop the witches of night, she must work with Ophelia and Finola to help her remember the events of 100 years ago. But the knowledge she seeks lies with that trickster god. He's mysterious, handsome, and powerful, and he's the one who once upon a time granted Bridget her dearest wish, a daughter. And to save Evermore, she might have to lose her daughter again. I think I'm in.
Me too.
I'm intrigued.
Me too.
That's The Lost Witch by Paige Crutcher. Comes out December 27.
All right. My final book of today is called Mine. It's an anthology of body autonomy horror. This comes out December 1st. So this is by a bunch of different authors. I am not familiar with anybody, but let me read off a few of the authors here. There's Julie Sevens, J.M. Sedlock, Grace R. Reynolds, which sounds familiar to me, Sarah Jane Huntington, Angela Sylvain, there's Cynthia Gomez, Violet Morningstar, lots of different people in here contributing to this book. So we have bodily transformation, possession of a body, forced dismemberment or disembodiment. What? Disembodiment.
Gross.
A baby consumes its mother in utero.
Well, that happens.
Oh, God. That's a nightmare. Unrealistic postpartum expectations turn deadly. A witch avenges the voiceless, which I'm all for that story. So there's 16 original horror stories that explore the ownership and control, or lack thereof, that we have over our bodies. This is really intriguing. I will probably pick it up because I love this stuff. It is called Mine, an anthology of body autonomy.
I have 2 books to talk about. The first is Queen of Myth and Monsters. It's part 2 of the Adrian and Isolde series. It's by Scarlett St. Clair. Publisher is Bloom Books. Comes out December 20, just in time for Christmas. It's the next book in the vampire fantasy series. So Isolde is the newly coronated queen, and she's finally found a king worthy of her in the vampire Adrian. But their love for each other has cost Isolde her father and her homeland. With 2 opposing goddesses playing mortals and vampires against one another, Isolde is uncertain who her allies are in the vampire stronghold of Rebecca. Now, as politics in the Red Palace grow more underhanded, inexplicable monster attacks plague the villages, and a deadly crimson mist threatens all of Cordova. She must trust in the bond she's formed with Adrian, even as she learns troubling information about his complicated past. That's Queen of Myth and Monsters, and it comes out December 20. My final book is the second book by Cormac McCarthy to come out in less than 45 days apart. It's Stella Maris. It's connected to the first book, which is The Passenger. It's the second volume in the Passenger series. It's an intimate portrait of grief and longing as a young woman in a psychiatric facility, and her name is not Carrie, by the way, seeks to understand her own existence. So it starts off in 1972 in Black River Falls, Wisconsin. Alicia Western is 20 years old. She has $40,000 in a plastic bag, and she admits herself to the hospital. Wow.
Wow.
She is a doctoral candidate in mathematics at the University of Chicago, and she's been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. And she does not want to talk about her brother Bobby. Instead, she contemplates the nature of madness, the human insistence on one common experience of the world, and she recalls a childhood where by the age of 7, her own grandmother feared for her. She surveys the intersection of physics and philosophy, and she introduced her cohorts, chimeras, the hallucinations that only she can see. All the while, she grieves for Bobby, who's not quite dead and not quite hers. This is told entirely through the transcripts of Alicia's psychiatric session. Stella Maris is a searching, rigorous, intellectually challenging coda to The Passenger, a philosophical inquiry that questions our notions of God, truth, and existence. So this book is not for everyone, and it may not be for me. I just started reading The Passenger, but I've been pretty busy at work, so I'm not very far in. But I loved The Road, and people have raved about Blood Meridian, and Cormac McCarthy is supposedly like the author of our time that will go on to be legendary. So I don't know. Go read some reviews. There's a lot of action going on Book Talk and Bookstagram and BookTube and Goodreads. Very excited about these 2 books because Cormac McCarthy writes beautiful, amazing books, but he hardly ever writes them. He takes years and years and years, and his life for the last 10 years has been consumed with writing these books for us. So that is Stella Maris, and that is our final book today.
That's a pretty strong end to our December fiction reads, I would say. So if you guys are interested in any of the books that we do list, make sure to check out our show notes at darksideofthelibrary.com. We have a whole bunch of things over there. And join us on all of our socials at Dark Side of the Library. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and our Amazon live channel at amazon.com/live/darksideofthelibrary. We'd love to see you there, especially while we're live streaming. Give us a comment. Make sure to share this podcast with your spooky loved ones, spread the word, and to rate and review on your favorite listening app. Thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it, and we will see you next time.